Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Peptides and Age Management with Dr. Kris. Dr. Kris Wusterhausen of the Resurge Clinic. I say it the German way. You can say it the American way. How are you doing, Doctor?
I'm good. I'm good, Steve. How are you today?
Excellent. Glad to see you. You're looking good. A little bit, you're looking tan.
Yeah. Still a little bit of tan from spring break. A little bit of melanotan as well.
Melanotan. So today we're going to talk about something that everybody thinks, maybe they don't say it all the time, but it's hard to tone your body. Why is it so difficult? And what are some of the things that maybe you might want to encourage us to do? But before we start, these conversations are, again, they're intended as educational, and you should always consult your physician before changing your medical program. So, Dr. Kris, what's been going on?
Oh, it's just been a pretty normal week this week, actually. Weather's good here, so it's been nice. But so toning the body, that's, one of the things that we're all trying to do and having varying levels of success doing that. I think it's a multi-level answer to that very, very difficult question. I think that some of the things that I would always ask a patient is how good is the exercise they're actually doing? You know from our past experiences that I'm a big fan of actually having an actual professional trainer involved with your regimen. I think it's important for most of us. Most of us, in my opinion, won't do the workouts necessary, won't follow maybe the exercise schedule that you should, unless you have someone pushing you. But some people can pull it off. I'm not certainly saying that no one can. I'm just not one of them. So, it's really important that we're doing that proper resistance training, that we're alternating muscle groups. Like at our gym, we actually like to do fairly full body workouts on each workout. But so many times when patients are actually doing the proper work in the gym, either they're failing miserably in the nutrition. That's a big portion of it, because as I always say, you can't outwork your bad nutrition. And so everything with our health goes back to what we put in our mouth. And so making sure that, if we're out here eating poor foods, but we're working our tails off in the gym, and we're like, well, the results aren't coming. Why is that? Well, it's because of what we're eating. And I see it so much in my practice where people do all the real hard stuff, but they miss the easy one, which is just eating better. And then, of course, physiologically, is your body working for you? Or is your body working against you? Mm. And that's always the most disappointing thing when I see patients who've been really trying for like a year or two or three, and they're like, man, I just getting no success. And then you look at their blood work and you're like, oh my gosh, you poor person. If you'd have just done some of these basic hormonal things, I think you'd be in a much better space than you are right now.
So your story, your backstory about how you felt and how you got into this type of medicine or this type of practice is interesting, and I think people should know about it. You've told us before, but I think it gives you authority, and it gives you, you know what you're talking about because you've been there.
Yeah, well, I'm 49 now. I turned 49 last week, but I woke up at about 34 years of age as a traditional family practitioner in my town. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I realized, who in the hell is going to take me serious when I go in to give them education on healthy living? I was, my body fat percentage was at about 35%. My blood sugars were trending upwards towards pre-diabetes. My blood pressure was high. My cholesterol was a mess. I ran 5 miles most days, about 4 to 5 days a week. I'd run 5 miles a day. It was doing nothing. Stress levels were through the roof. And I, just decided one day that there has to be a better way, that I realized that I was going to be no good to my patients or my family or myself if I went down that path, if I kept going down that path. And so, as I always tell my patients, I did some basic blood work on myself and wasn't impressed, but I really didn't know what to do with it. With the training that I had, even as a board certified family practitioner, I just don't feel like I had the proper tools. And that's what it is what started this journey. I always say my practice started with one patient, and it's me. And that's what caused me to go out and get extra training. I originally started with a company called Synergenics. which is an age management medicine concierge practice. I trained with them. I saw patients there for a few years part-time, and then I finally branched off on my own, 10 or 12 years ago. And certainly I've aged 15 years because I'm 49 now, but I would put my 49-year-old up against that 34-year-old any day. I truly believe that even though I've aged, I'm overall in much better shape than I am today. Now, I will say this. My COVID self is not as good as my normal non-COVID self. And what I mean by that is I have, like I think a lot of our patients, and is I haven't followed my diet as closely as I should have over the last 6 to 9 months to a year. My exercise has been okay, but my diet has not been as good as it normally is. I think, like a lot of patients, I found myself with more time on my hands than usual and, at home. And I kind of started reaching for some of those foods that my teenagers like that I shouldn't be partaking in. And, I'm up about 7 pounds over normal for me. And I'll be honest, just like a lot of patients, it's not as easy at 49 to get those 7 pounds off as it was at 40. And that starts to be discouraging. But if you know some of the tricks, and I don't even want to call them tricks, they're not tricks. If you just know how to lose weight and lose weight properly, you know that you can do it. But as I always tell patients, it doesn't feel like it comes off as fast as it goes on. And it's certainly not as fun to take it off as it is to go on. But, that extra weight for most of us is what causes all the damage in our bodies. I'm right here in Texas, just like you. I always tell patients, if you've got a half-ton pickup and you put a ton in the back of it and you drive around for a few years, things are going to break, okay? If you're meant to be 175 pounds and you're 225, it's not a long-term plan for success. It's just not. Things are going to start to happen that are physiologically not good.
Yeah, spoken like a great Texan. Good job there, Dr. Kris.
Yes.
So that in my book, I talk about everyone's talking about all the sexy technology for internet marketing but the conversation really needs to be around the boring fundamentals. You need those in place before you can bring on the sexy, right? And it's the same principle here. And we're talking about exercise, diet, sleep,
fasting.
So. And I don't think we can say it too much. So let's say it again. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, I think that as we talk to our patients, as you know, and I know you're a big fan as well, we're tremendous fans of fasting in our practice. I believe intermittent fasting is a necessity for many of us to get some of the really good results that we're looking for. It's easy to do once you understand it, how it works, and it doesn't cost a thing. As I always tell my patients, it actually saves you money. And the fasting protocol that we're usually always talking about is at least starting with a 16-8 fasting protocol. So that's 16 hours with 0 calorie intake. I tell my patients they can have water, black coffee, unsweet tea for 16 hours a day, and for 8 hours a day they feed. And during those feeding times, you certainly need to get to know the patient and figure out what their likes and dislikes are. Like, I'm one of the more picky patients in this practice of diet. So you're not going to get people to do things that they absolutely despise, but just trying to make some modifications, lower that carbohydrate intake for most of our patients. We do recommend many of the time a low carb, moderate to high, good fat, moderate protein diet. Most of the time it's just trying to eliminate the sugar and carbs out of the diet. Again, as we always talk about, we don't want to go no carb. That's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to put ourselves in a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week ketosis or ketogenic state. I do love ketosis in short spurts. I'm not a big fan of it long-term after, a few days. And then mixing in a good, well-rounded exercise that has, good cardiovascular aspects to it, but also that resistance training for us 40-somethings and older, because we need it to maintain our strength, our balance, our core. It makes your back hurt less. You just feel better. I always tell patients I was actually scheduled for a laminectomy, I think when I was about 37, and just really improving my exercise quality, was able to prevent that laminectomy. And with Maury's help, our trainer here, my back has probably not hurt me in about a year and a half. But if I don't get that 7 pounds off, eventually it may start hurting again, because the more we carry up front, the more pull you're getting on that lumbar spine, and the more problems that you can have.
Yeah, I found with the internet fasting, actually it brings a side benefit of a self-esteem, and that you can challenge yourself to do something that maybe you wouldn't have considered doing or saw yourself doing. And it's not that hard.
You know, I had a patient the other day, and I just, it had been a couple of months since I saw the patient, and I talked about the patient about trying intermittent fasting. And he came back a couple months later and he's like, I love it. Not only am I doing that, but once a week I'm doing a 40-hour fast. And I was like, wow, like seriously, you've already moved a 40-hour fast? He's like, yeah, man, I love it. Like the longer I go, I just feel so much better mentally. I feel better about myself. And I think that we start to also, like, kind of like you said, we start to realize that we can be more disciplined than we think we can. Mm-hmm. And as you do fasting, I think then it can roll over into your diet. Like, hey, if I can control my eating for 18 hours, 24 hours straight, well, then with those 8 hours of feeding, I can also control that diet a little bit better as well. And I've always felt very strongly about most of us are either fully invested or we're not all invested. We're not invested at all. Like, in other words, I always use the example. I did have my neck fused a few years back, and I said, okay, I got my neck fused. I can't exercise for like 3 months. My diet, I'm going to do such a clean diet. And hell, my diet went to hell like so quickly, because I found that if I wasn't working out, I just had a mental thought of like, screw it. You know, I always joke like a kid. I just threw my toys down in a sandbox and just walked away. And so that's why I always say, I feel like you have to have the exercise, the nutrition. It all just goes together. It's what keeps us mentally focused. And we're not even talking about the other, you know, probably important thing is just the stress relief that it gives us. You know, many times my employees will be like, did you work out today? And I'm like, no. I'm like, well, we can tell, you know, and so it's very important for everybody's sanity around me too, that I get my workout in the mornings. Cause I'm not a guy that can work out after work. I'm done once the day's done at work.
So when we start to work out, there's like this, I don't know, 2-month window of where it's the hardest thing in the world to get back into a rhythm.
Right.
Talk to us about maybe some good ideas of how to overcome this hurdle.
Yeah. So I think that, you know, and it also goes back to what I always say is, even if you're working out and you go to, someone told me they might be going to Mexico soon. And, you know, you go to Mexico for a few days and for a week, you don't work out, you start all over again, even when you do that. So you can be working out for a year straight, take a week off. And mentally, when you go back, you're starting all over again. Because very few of us just naturally love to exercise. I mean, even though we're supposed to do it, we kind of naturally stay away from it. We're all busy. We got a lot of stuff going on. So my first thing I always tell everybody, if exercising is in your top 3 of what you have to get done each day, it'll get done. If exercising is like number 12 on your to-do list, you'll never get to it. You have to also find something that you enjoy. There has to be some level of enjoyment to what you do exercising. If you, I don't know, hate playing basketball and you go try to play basketball every day, it's very doubtful that you're ever going to grow into that. So even though it doesn't feel good when we go back, like I actually like lifting weights, but when I haven't done it in a while, my brain tells me, because there's soreness, there's just fatigue, you know, you get out of breath easily. So there's a lot of impairments that stop us from going. Sometimes there's, you know, you go with other people who maybe are in better shape than you. And so there's a little bit of embarrassment there. And so the biggest thing is I think a workout partner is a great idea for most of us. If, you know, my workout partners keep me going. If I know I'm going to stand someone up, again, I think having a trainer is another good way to keep you going, because if you've paid for something, if you feel like you're going to stand someone up, that keeps you going. And really just working your schedule around the workout versus working the workout around your schedule. And so really finding a time that works for you, something that you can do on a daily basis. and mentally somewhat sucking it up a little bit and realizing, hey, the first 7 to 14 days is not going to be fun. If I can get through, though, that first week and a half, I've got this beat. And realizing and understanding that, oh my gosh, in 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to feel so much better when this is all said and done. So I hate to say it because it sounds very cliche-ish, but it is just sticking with it for a little bit, but also easing in. I find too many people go into the gym for the first time, and they, especially guys, they go in and they see the guy over there doing all this stuff, like, okay, I can do all of that. Again, not a trainer, by themselves. They lift like they've lifted every day for the last year, and then they get horribly sore or they hurt themselves, and then they give up. And so it's okay to ease in over a couple of weeks. You don't need, when we get new people in our workout group, we're like, no, you shouldn't be doing what we're doing. I mean, that's ridiculous, maybe in a month or so. So again, workout partner, accountability, having a good program set up that you can follow. There are a lot of great things today online, apps, different things that you can follow that can really, maybe get you, if maybe affording a personal trainer is maybe not attainable for some people. Heck, just a good, moderate, brisk walk for 45 minutes can do a lot of good for you. Just get moving. The first thing I tell my patients that aren't exercising, I don't care what you do, just get moving, do something, get off the couch and get moving, and keep pushing yourself. So as something becomes easy, take it up a notch, change it, do something different. Don't be that person that does the same workout. I go for a 30-minute walk around my neighborhood every day at the same speed. Well, that's going to do something for a couple weeks, but then it's going to do nothing after that. So, change it, go a different direction, go further, walk faster, put some ankle weights on your ankle. I don't know, do something that makes it different to make it more difficult.
Yeah, carry that tire you would have thrown in the back of that pickup truck.
Oh my gosh, you should see our new tire we got here. I unfortunately tell Maury some things sometimes, and he takes me too literal. And so he found us a humongous tractor tire. We flip tires here at the office. Flipping tires is a really good exercise. And so he brung this behemoth in the other day, and I'm like, oh my God, I might have overshot my mouth on that one. So I haven't tried it yet. We'll see.
So one of the things I've noticed that with exercising, we have this mindset of how we exercised in high school, but really there's a lot of ways that we wouldn't consider that would be very beneficial. Sometimes it's isometric, sometimes it's the high intensity workouts, and then we don't have to go work out for an hour straight.
No, absolutely not. Sometimes the best workouts can be very short workouts, maybe only 10 or 15 minutes. And that's where having a very good alternating program can be really good. I am a huge fan, though, of HIIT workouts, and especially like a 4-minute HIIT workout before you actually start your actual workout. And so like in our gym, one of the big things, and what do I mean by a 4-minute HIIT workout? It is basically 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. So the 20 seconds on would be as absolutely as hard you can work out for 20 seconds. And then 10 seconds, you basically recover. And you do that for 4 minutes, which sounds like not a big deal until you try it. And so in our gym, we have what's called an assault bike. And it's a great 4-minute EMOND high intensity workout. So you just basically pedal as hard as you can pedal for 20 seconds, off 10, 20, 10, do that for 4 minutes. What's really great about that is not only do you set your metabolic rate up to go through the roof, you're also basically your stem cells become activated and they're ready to do their jobs. So now that you move over maybe into your resistance training, and you're going to get better muscle growth and better fat burning potential because of everything that you've done with that 4 minute of HIITs. So we like to start our exercises with the 4 minutes of HIITs and then move over into more of a full body workout at that time. Although we do keep the cardio going during most of our workouts. In our gym, I call it kind of CrossFit like. CrossFit's a very popular workout these days, and I think it can be very good just depending on, making sure that you can do some of those things, which is what you know, what I don't like about CrossFit sometimes is it puts a big group of people together, and many times the bulk of the group is young, and you get older people like me who can be not real bright at times like me and think I can do what the 20-year-old can do because the 20-year-old's doing it. And you do get this little drive inside of you, like, I can do it. And like you said, we have to realize at our age that we don't always have to lift as heavy. We can actually just do more reps with lighter weights and get some of the same exercises or same results from the exercises. So I think it's just really important that, you know, like for us, we do the 4-minute hits most of the time. Then we jump into a kind of a circuit training, keeping the heart pumping the whole time. So, you know, do one exercise that maybe is not so intense cardiovascular wise, but then moving into something that is, and back and forth and hitting all those major muscle groups through it. Because at my age and at your age, Steve, or at least for most of us, we're not looking necessarily to bulk up. We're looking to be, I always tell my patients, I want you to be athletic. I want you to be lean. I want you to have enough muscle mass to last the rest of your life without becoming sarcopenic, which is the term for muscle loss as we age. It's basically your frail elders. Those are sarcopenic family members or friends. And so we're not looking necessarily to gain 15 pounds of muscle, but we want to maintain our muscle mass, maybe add a little bit, but strengthen that core. And overall, for most of us, lose some of those fat cells.
Yeah. So the things that we're talking about right now, they circle back to the health of the cell. And so when we talk about a good fundamentals, when you sleep, your cells are getting to repair. When you're doing HIIT, your cells are getting better and cleaner. When you're fasting, all these things are working together and they're building upon each other.
Yeah, it's all about autophagy. And so as we've talked about, it's all about that cellular repair. It's all about cellular communication. It's all about proper energy levels for our cells. It's all about trying to prevent as many cells as we can from becoming senescent. You know, that's the term we like to use here is the zombie cells. So trying to keep as many cells from just hanging out and not really doing their function any longer. And, you know, that's accomplished by a multitude of ways. But, you know, if we went out and bullet pointed, you know, like, what are the things that we can do to help ourselves? You know, that bullet point list could be pages long. But most of us, if we would just do a handful of things, and you already hit a bunch of the points: eat a little better, fast a little better, exercise a little better, sleep a little better, stress a little less. You know, these things, you know, take your ketone esters, take your vitamin D and different supplements that you probably need. Let's get our hormones checked. If your hormones are low, let's get them properly replaced bioidentically. All of these things make huge changes down the road. And so what we try to do here at our office, and what I encourage other providers to do, is just take a look at each patient individually, try to figure out where you can help them. What are they willing to do? You know, not everyone's willing to do the same thing. Some patients are willing to go further than others, but you can make a difference in everyone's life, usually by doing very simple changes that in a year or two are going to make huge changes overall in their overall health.
So when we start exercising, get a little more active, then we incur a little soreness. And so there are some peptides, there are some things that we can do to heal faster. Share with us a little bit of those, please.
Yeah, so I like to call those the repair peptides. Of course, I'll kind of hit maybe 3 or 4 of them fairly quickly. You know, kind of a workhorse peptide that we generally like very much in our practice is what we call the growth hormone secretagogues, or the GHRH, GHRPs, which is the CJC, ipamorelin most commonly. And that's a really good overall peptide for those patients that are wanting to gain a little muscle mass, lose a little body fat, heal faster, less muscle soreness, maybe sleep a little bit better, skin a little bit better. It checks so many boxes that it becomes a very popular peptide for a lot of our patients. And simply what it's doing is it's a peptide that's causing the anterior pituitary gland to make more and release more growth hormone. So it's not a growth hormone product, but it's called a growth hormone secretagogue because of how it works. It's a very safe product, and it works extremely well for patients. And so it's many times our go-to. But then also we're a big fan of like BPC 157, Body Protective Complex 157. It's made in the gastric juices of our stomach. Has a multitude of positive effects, from protecting the brain and helping with neurologic disorders, to GI with ulcers and reflux disease, irritable bowel syndrome, to helping repair muscles and tendons. So a really popular one there. And the nice thing is now it's actually gone over the counter. So we can actually have patients just come in and buy it off our shelves, or we ship it to them, and it's much cheaper than it used to be when it was prescription only. Two others that I would probably, or at least one other I'd go through really quickly, is thymosin beta 4. Thymosin beta 4 is a peptide made in our thymus gland. It is an amazing healer in the muscular system. So if you get that patient that, you know, like I always say, you're in a bad car wreck, or you really sustain a bad muscular injury, or you're an athlete that maybe has some muscle involvement along with ligament and tendons, or just general repair, thymosin beta 4 can be a really, really good peptide to use as well. And there's more, but you know, those three are probably the biggest ones that I would say, as far as, you know, somebody getting into working out. And going back to it, the first step, though, I always say for most of us, because most of these patients are going to be kind of in that 35 and older group, is also making sure we don't forget about their actual hormones and looking at those. You know, you don't want to, you know, be looking for the tiny little thing over there when actually you're missing the big problem, which is their testosterone is, you know, 250 for a male, or really low for a female, or maybe their thyroid's off. We want to fix the basics before sometimes we even move to the peptides.
Yeah. I remember you talking about ketone esters, and I'm trying to think of it's a recovery supplement that you can take that helps you recover faster, but it has other benefits as well.
Yeah, ketone esters are just amazing. I still think that we're kind of on the front side of actually figuring out what all they can help us with. But ketone esters can be used for so many different things. But what is a ketone ester? Ketone esters, by the way, the only reputable company that makes them in the United States is Ketone Aid, ketoneaid.com. All the other ketone drinks out there, in my humble opinion, are not worth using. And I have no affiliation with Ketone Aid. I just love their product. And it's the most potent cellular fuel that we can have. We always call it rock fuel for the body, and it tastes like it as well, which is the negative ketone esters, but we get used to it. It's okay. And by doing that, you're actually putting yourself into a 3 to 4 hour ketosis. I always say by giving yourself about a 1 millimole of ketosis if you actually checked the blood. And that ketosis, it increases autophagy, it increases metabolism, it kind of indirectly increases fat burning. I know that Frank from Ketone Aid is always very clear that ketone esters themselves don't cause fat burning, but kind of indirectly, I believe that they do. We feel better, we do better. You know, some people even take small doses to help them sleep and have really good success with that. So ketone esters are a very underrated product. We certainly use a lot of it in our practice, and we're very, very fond of it.
All right. So now it's starting to be time where people are going to Mexico, or maybe they're going to the beach, or maybe they're spending time outside more. And some of the things that we want to do is look tan. We want to be a little more toned. One of the peptides that you use can help you get a healthy tan.
Yeah, so the peptide that can help you tan is called melanotan. It works through the melanocortin system, which is our tanning system. for any providers out there, the big thing is actually the studies show that there's a lowered incidence of skin cancer associated with using melanotan. I think mainly because if you're on melanotan, you have a tan, you don't feel the need to go out and get the unhealthy UV rays to get the tan because you have the tan. It is a protective tan, although when patients are first using melanotan, I always tell them to be very careful with sun exposure because you're hypersensitive at that point and you could burn very easily. I would never recommend anyone using it that has a history of melanoma who are actively treating a basal cell or a squamous cell cancer. But it can be a very effective peptide and I've had success with it, even with patients that normally cannot tan with just actual sun exposure. They can get a very nice tan, typically with melanotan, fairly well tolerated. It is an injectable peptide. The only real side effects that I've noticed is there can be a little bit of nausea associated with it. So we usually dose it at bedtime to prevent that. Also, there's a nice side effect that some people will experience, which is increased libido in men and women and an increase in erections in men. So as I always jokes, if I know somebody well, I don't always warn them about that because I think it can be kind of funny. But that's a known side effect of melanotan.
So what are some of the treatments that you guys have in-house that can maybe help me get rid of a little stuff around my midsection, maybe my chicken skin under here?
Yeah, so the big one there is first of all, I always like to kind of define the patient that we're looking for this procedure. And it's that patient that has those hard to treat areas. It's not for somebody that needs to lose, 20, 30 pounds. It's for a person that's reasonably in good shape, but has those areas, the turkey neck a little bit, or the extra little bit of fat around the love handles, bra bulge, thighs. And the main procedure that we do there for that in our office is what's called sculpture. Some people call it warm sculpting. It's the competitor to cool sculpting, which a lot of patients have heard about. Cool sculpting has done an excellent job of marketing and has put a lot of money behind their brand. And cool sculpting has been out a little bit longer than sculpture or warm sculpting, and basically their names kind of tell you how they work. Cool sculpting uses cold, whereas warm sculpting uses heat. They actually have the same exact FDA approval, which is 26% permanent fat cell reduction per treatment per area. But I think there's some big differences between the two. Cool sculpting is a much more painful procedure than warm sculpting. Cool sculpting is operator dependent, where sculpture is operator independent. So you get the same results no matter who's doing your procedure, versus cool sculpting can be really dependent on how good your operator is. Cool sculpting generally takes twice as long as warm sculpting does. So not only is it more painful, but it's twice as long. So that's not always good. Sometimes you can actually get a temporary neuropathy. I've actually seen which is a nerve pain. And I've actually seen one patient that got significant hypopigmentation from cool sculpting. You could actually literally see where her pads were on her belly because it hypopigmented her permanently from getting more cool sculpting. So cool sculpting works. I never tell patients that it doesn't. It's just I believe that we have the newer, better, safer option over cool sculpting.
So what are some of the skin treatments? You think about, summertimes when you start really thinking about these things.
Yeah, and I think that's where we've really gotten very proactive with our patients, is with skin, because so many patients, believe it or not just men, so many women and men neglect their skin. I'm always so surprised whenever I talk to someone like, what's your skin regimen? And it's like, what do you mean skin regimen? I wash my face with my body wash or their bar of soap that I get. And I had a lady the other day that she was like, I use water. And I was like, I mean, but what do you wash your face with? She's like,
a good start.
And I'm like, oh my God, she only uses water. Okay. And so anyway, you know, the nice thing is that most of the time with some very limited regimens, you know, a lot of patients can really do a good job of either improving their skin quality or just protecting their skin quality, staying out of the sun as much as possible if you're unprotected, or wearing sunscreen. Proper sunscreen is so important. We're a big fan of the Hydrafacial here. We try to encourage our patients to be on our monthly program and get a monthly Hydrafacial. The nice thing is about a Hydrafacial, patients kind of put it in the category of getting a massage. It's a relaxing, fun procedure that they get to just chill out for 45 minutes or so, and I really enjoy that. But you're getting all those dead skin cells off. You're hydrating the skin, and then typically Lorinda or Lauren or Inez after that are really making sure that they understand. We're a big fan of the Zeo products, which is a very good skincare line, and really individualizing that for the type of skin. Like, I'm a dry skin person, so my skin's going to be treated differently than an oily skin person, and making sure they're using the right products. Because many times the ladies that we see are spending just as much money, if not more money, than what we're requesting to spend, but they're using the wrong products because they went to Dillard's or something like this, and some makeup artist or someone who works there who really doesn't know skin gave them, you know, the recommendation, and they're like, okay, and they spend $200 or $300. And they don't have good quality products. And the other thing that I always like to tell about pharmaceutical products is maybe it seems like they're more expensive, but they last so much longer because you use such small amounts. Like the face wash that we use, it's like a tiny pearl that you use for your whole face, where, you know, some of these other things that people pay for, they practically have to, you know, take an ounce of it to wash their face with. So, you know, a lot of times the patients will just listen through and hear, oh, well, this tube's going to last you 4 months. Oh, okay. Well, $75 doesn't seem that bad if it's lasting me 4 months, versus they think maybe that, you know, it's only going to last them a month. So skin, you know, it's protection, it's sunscreen, it's you know, getting those dead skin cells off. It's just following, it's kind of like working out. It's having a program and sticking with it. Summer is always when people get serious about their skin because they're going to be going out and going on vacation and whatnot. But skin protection is a year-round thing. It's not just because in the winter, our skin typically gets very dry because we're exposed to the heaters everywhere we go and whatnot. And so our skin really dries out. At least I know mine does. And so for many times, my skin regimen has to be more intense in the winter than it does the summer.
So what's the big deal about the Hydrafacial? You know, I've had one, but if you ask me what were all the things that the benefits from it, I don't know.
Well, and so Hydrafacial, the nice thing about Hydrafacial is it's an immediate response. So people walk in and walk out feeling better about themselves. So many things that we do at our office, it's like, we're going to make you feel better in 4 to 6 weeks. This is one of those things that you feel better right then and there. Okay. You walk out with your skin being more supple. You've gotten all those dead skin cells off. You feel good. You look in the mirror and go, oh yeah, my skin is softer. It's shinier. It looks better. It looks more healthy. And again, we're just getting those dead skin cells off. We're also pushing hydration down into the skin. And many times where you get the real results with the Hydrafacial is some of the add-ons that we do, like the growth factors and different Rosatrol for me, because I have bad rosacea. You know, like right now I'm really past due on my Hydrafacial, and my rosacea is starting to break out more because I haven't used my Rosatrol for a while. But then it's also not just getting one Hydrafacial. If you just get one Hydrafacial, you're probably not going to see many results with that. It's staying on that regimen of once a month and getting those Hydrafacials routinely. Again, we're not talking about, in my humble opinion, real high price things. Like patients come to my office and they'll spend sometimes $2,000 on Botox and Juvederm. And I'm like, you know, that's great, but probably if you did a Hydrafacial every month, you might be able to get away with a lot less Juvederm or Botox. And in the end, it actually pays for itself. Or sometimes if you would just spend that money on the Hydrafacial every month and good skincare, you could actually look, you know, it's great if you do Botox or Juvederm and you get the lines and wrinkles out of your face, but if the skin still looks like a catcher's mitt, you know, it's still not where you want to be. So, you know, I would love for everybody to do everything, but ultimately it's about proving the skin quality. And I think that even if you have lines and wrinkles, it sure does look a lot better when the skin quality is good versus having no wrinkles but bad skin quality. So, you know, and then before I forget, and then also like taking it back over to the peptides, and we've worked it into pretty much most of our skincare regimen. Now we recommend Luminate, which is the GHK-Cu topical peptide that is now over the counter as well. I honestly would say that's been our biggest change with our skin patients in the last over the last year. When you combine good quality skincare products with a good quality regimen like a Hydrafacial, and then on top of it, you mix in the GHK-Cu peptide topically, again, it increases collagen elasticity by around 70%, decreases lines and wrinkles by around 40%. You know, it doesn't replace Botox, but it sure does help lower the amounts of Botox you need and make your Botox work better, or maybe not need Botox. Not everybody gets Botox, but it's a really, really good peptide that we've had a lot of success with. We actually are having a hard time keeping it in stock, is probably our biggest problem right now.
Well, it seemed like for me, I don't know, I never had Botox, but it seems like that's kind of a decision that you're going to inject this poison in there to heal the wrinkles, but maybe you would want to try the GHK first.
Yeah, it just depends on the patient. You know, we have some patients that are just opposed to like Botox, to having a toxin actually injected into their body, and some people aren't. You know, I personally have, I'm not afraid to say it, I've used Botox for years. I look 65 if I don't have Botox, Steve. I have a big forehead, okay? And so I love Botox, but, you know, the GHK-Cu is just another tool in our toolbox, and it's affordable. You know, I love affordable tools that actually work, because I don't care who you are, everybody's got a budget. Your budget may be bigger than mine or less than mine, but they have a budget. And so what we try to do is figure out what budget are they comfortable with per month and give them realistic time frames. Okay, you're going to need to do this for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months to see the results. And then if you give them reasonable time frames, fit it into their budget, and they actually see these the progress / success in the time frame that you said, they'll stick with it. And that's all I ever ask my patients is, we ask for you to give us whatever it is, 3 months. And if you're not happy at that point, then don't continue it. I would never ask anyone to do that.
Okay, so one last question before we let you go. You're a busy doctor, but under my eyes, I got these bags, right? And they're not getting better as I get older. Mm-hmm. What can people do? I see stuff on Instagram all the time, but I don't know who to believe.
So bags under the eyes are one of the harder things to treat. You know, there's tons of eye creams out there, and in my opinion, there's no really good eye cream. Luminate, the one we just talked about, is probably the one that we have the most success with, simply because it's tightening the collagen up to 70%. So by putting it around the eyes, you can actually get fairly significant improvement of those bags under the eyes. Sometimes too, actually some of the injectables such as Voluma in the cheeks, sometimes you pull those. As we age, we lose our cheekbone structure. And if you put some of that cheekbone structure back with a product like Voluma, you can actually get like a mini facelift type look, which will actually pull that skin back and actually get rid of some of those bags under the eyes. And of course, in the worst case scenario, there's always plastic surgery where they actually go in and remove those. Now we try to keep patients away from that. We personally don't do any type of plastic surgery, but certainly sometimes I see patients and I'm like, I'm sorry, your only thing we're going to be able to do is, you know, send you to a plastic surgeon. But it's like everything. If we can treat people before it gets that bad, we can keep them from going there. But sometimes they get to that point and there's just nothing else we can do. But that's probably one of the most common complaints we get. That is one of the harder things to treat, no doubt about it.
So I've always heard of that preparation H was like.
If it works down there, it's bound to work up there, huh? Luminate's kind of like preparation H, I guess. Okay, we're trying to increase the collagen elasticity, and so, but it really does work. It's a really good product.
All right, awesome.
I don't know if you could put it on your hemorrhoids, though. I've never tried that, so probably shouldn't do that.
All right, glad. So, but I'm sure intermittent fasting would help a little bit with the baggy eyes.
Hey, it helps everything. It's bound to help it there.
All right, Dr. Kris, if it's fun talking to the doctor who's like us, he's just someone that has a similar story, started off with poor health, took advantage of it, and helps others address the fundamentals so you can get a more holistic way of healing. So, Dr. Kris, any last thing? You're going to be gone for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we're out of the office next week over in Irving seeing patients, and then happily in 2 weeks we have our next mastermind peptide course up in Chicago that we'll be out for, but then we'll be back at doing the podcast after that.
All right. Well, again, I really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite times of the week. I learned so much, and I apply it myself, actually, except the preparation age. But you weren't proposing that, that's for sure. All right, Dr. Kris, thank you so much for your time today. And you guys stay tuned. Dr. Kris, if you want to reach out to them, it's theresurgeclinic.com. And yeah, start there. And we'll figure it out as we go. Dr. Kris, thanks.
Thanks, Steve. Enjoy your vacation.
All right. Appreciate it. And that's a wrap.